One of the top 5 concerns of all retirees is running out of money. And, it might be something that you're worried about. And there's a good reason for that, right? Nobody wants to unretire and be forced to go back to work. But there's a reason I know that running out of money is a top 5 concern. I've been helping clients retire successfully now for about a decade. So I've seen a lot of different financial circumstances. And through this experience, I've learned that there are 5 things retirees do that will cause them to run out of money. In today's video, I'm going to share what those 5 things are so that you don't have to unretire. I'll also share some simple solutions so that you can avoid making these mistakes. All right, the first mistake retirees make actually starts before they even retire and when they're still working. You see, when you're working, you know exactly what you'll be doing with your day. You have things that you need to accomplish and stuff that has to get done at work. In other words, your day is filled. Then the weekend comes and you have some free time. But when you're in retirement, every day is the weekend, right? You probably don't have big deadlines and projects that have a specific due date. You don't have a boss that you need to report to. Well, maybe you have a spouse, so maybe you have one boss that you have to report to, but that's not what the point of this video is about. With all this extra free time, you typically have to fill it with other things to do, either hobbies or experiences, or maybe getting around to seeing family a lot more often now that you have the time. And all those things are wonderful, but most of the time these things cost money, and you may end up spending more money in retirement than you did when you were working. That's why one of the biggest mistakes retirees make is simply underestimating expenses. You fail to account for how you will fill your time and what it would cost to do exactly what you want to do. This is not a 2-week vacation where you spend a bunch of money and then go back to work. This is 365 days for the rest of your life. What will you be doing to have fulfillment and retirement that you want? So before you take the plunge into retirement, map out how you will spend your entire week. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's a good exercise to get you thinking. The second mistake I see is somewhat related to the first, but it is different. There are groups of people out there that believe if you do simple things like, make your lunch at home and make your coffee at home, that you will have success in retirement. And I do understand that to an extent, but I actually mostly disagree. And that's because the biggest drain I see on a retiree's income is the big purchase. A cup of coffee may only cost, $5 or maybe $12 if you're getting a special drink with enough calories to kill an elephant. But a new luxury vehicle every 5 years can cost you $60,000 to $100,000, right? A brand new kitchen remodel can cost north of 6 figures. The RV that you've been dying to get to but never had time to travel the open road can cost north of 6 figures, or even the boat. But with all these expensive purchases will come more spending, right? The nicer vehicles are going to have a lot more maintenance and upkeep. The RV is now an extra thing that you have to take care of. The boat is a massive liability and requires a lot of work. And I'm not saying that these things aren't fun and that you shouldn't enjoy nice and expensive things in retirement. But most people aren't real with themselves in terms of what they're going to spend their time on and then how they fill it with other experiences and hobbies, which then result in big purchases, which massively drain that retirement account. So be careful with big purchases. I want you to consider alternative solutions. Do you really need the RV or boat, or could you just rent one, right? Will that luxury car every few years cause more harm than good? Sit down and calculate the costs, not just for the purchase, but how it will also increase your expenses going forward in future years. The third mistake is tricky, but I'll do my best to make it as easy to understand. And it's one that trips up a lot of retirees. See, spending too much too early in retirement can be irrevocable if it occurs at the same time when market returns are not so good. There's a fancy term for this, and we call it sequence of returns risk. When you first start investing, most people either second guess their timing or they try to time the market perfectly. A lot of people are worried that if they, are investing when markets are down, that things will just continue to go down. But if they're investing when markets are high, they might be fearing that this must be the top, therefore it'll just go down from here. But the truth is that when you're building wealth, it doesn't matter all too much when you put money in. As you'll see on this chart, portfolio A has great returns early in life, but then bad returns when you approach retirement, whereas portfolio C has bad returns early in life, but then good returns when you approach retirement. And then there's portfolio B, which has the exact same return of 7% every year throughout retirement. Note that between all three portfolios, A, B, and C, they have the same average annual rate of return of 7%. So if you were to start investing at age 40, it really doesn't matter if you have good returns early in life and then bad returns later in life, or vice versa. Over a 25-year period, you end up in the same exact spot during the accumulation phase of your life. But it matters a great deal when you're in retirement in the decumulation phase. So again, let's assume the same type of returns. In all three instances, this retiree had $1 million at the start, and they needed $60,000 of income annually adjusted for inflation. Now, portfolio C, the one that had negative returns at the beginning of retirement, ran out of money before age 90, whereas portfolio A, that had positive returns early in retirement, actually had more money than they started with at the end. And again, all three portfolios had the same average annual rate of return, but when they earned those returns were drastically different. I often have retirees coming to see me interested in how our firm can help them, and we help them understand that the portfolio that got them where they are today may not be the right portfolio to get them where they want to go. Not having a well-diversified portfolio or even having too risky of an investment allocation can make your retirement income plan fragile. So getting your investment portfolio ready for the decumulation phase of life requires planning and being prepared several years in advance. Ensure you have diversification. This can help reduce risk and increase the chances of a successful retirement and not running out of money. By the way, if this is something that you're interested in learning more about, and if your investments are aligned with research and historical evidence, you can request your free retirement report in the description below, and I'll send you a custom video going over your numbers. From there, if it makes sense for our team to explore things further, we can always do that as well. And while making sure that your income plan is not fragile and not susceptible to sequence of return risk is important, you don't have a ton of control over the direction of the market. But there is one thing that you do have a lot of control over. See, many retirees see $1 million in an IRA and think, I have $1 million to spend. But the truth is the IRS is not so patiently waiting to take up to 37% of that account in taxes. Now, you may not be in the top tax bracket, but even if you're married and your income is above $94,300, you're going to pay 22% marginal federal taxes on every withdrawal you take from an account like an IRA or a 401k. And depending on what state you live in, you could need to add state taxes on top of that as well. And in California, where I live, that goes up to 9.3%. So in the example I just gave you, a little over 30% of your IRA or 401k account is not actually yours and could potentially be paid out for taxes. This is why most retirees are surprised to learn that taxes will be likely one of their biggest lifetime expenses. So I'd argue one of the most important things a retiree does in preparation for a successful retirement is properly accounting for taxes over your lifetime and implementing strategies to reduce your lifetime tax bill. And we've covered a lot of different strategies and ways to reduce your lifetime tax bill on this channel. And the final thing many retirees fail to do that can cause them to run out of money is just something most people don't want to think about, because honestly, it's really unpleasant. When we get older, sometimes things just don't work the same way that they used to, right? Getting out of bed or getting out of a chair is a lot harder than it used to be. Keeping up with the kids or grandkids can become more difficult. And for some people, they age gracefully and then pass away without much issue. But there are a lot of people that, especially towards the end of life, need additional medical care that is not covered by health insurance or Medicare. And I'm talking about long-term care. It's something that nobody likes to think about, and nobody wants to imagine themselves in a situation where they can't care for themselves. But studies conducted by the government, the Administration for Community Living, report that people turning 65 today have an almost 70% chance of needing some type of long-term care services and support in their remaining years. Long-term care health events can wipe out your finances and create horrible situations where you end up becoming a burden to others. Now, the costs of medical care are pretty astounding and the future of care looks bleak, but my partner Anthony recently made a video covering the average healthcare costs in retirement and provides you with practical solutions on how you can prepare for these rising costs. You can watch that video right here.